Hey Gen Z, I'm John, and this is my podcast, Gen Z Democracy, where I discuss current events, my political views, and how the wealthy is bringing this economy against us.
So as y'all know, Trump's been in office for a little over 4 weeks now, and a lot has happened. This is a part of the flood the zone strategy. The goal is to overwhelm the American people and make us numb to all the crazy things they've been doing. So then when you least expect it, they take your money from right under your nose. This is why we need to stay vigilant and be aware of what's happening. So don't get overwhelmed and take a breath and join me as I tell you some of the worst things the president has done so far. So, on one of Trump's worst moves yet, on a memo on the 27th of January, Trump's admin stated that all federal assistance would be frozen starting the 28th. But a federal judge at the last minute delayed it till the 3rd of February. It's not even legal. Firstly, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the Constitution states that Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts to pay debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Basically, this means that Congress and only Congress has the power to control federal spending. It also it also violates the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 that states that Congress has to review all budget withholdings and requires the president to abide by the outcome of that review process. The memo said that all federal assistance must be paused except for Medicare, Social Security, and funds paid directly to citizens. Um, but it's unclear about how it's supposed to affect Medicaid, an insurance program that covers more than 70 million Americans. This would have cut food stamps for 42 million to some of the lowest earning Americans. Homeless shelters would have closed. School meals for low income students would have stopped. Financial aid for college kids would have also been halted. Disaster relief would have also had to been put on hold. Social welfare programs would have been paused, leaving people unable to pay rent. Grants for scientific research would have stopped. Funds for roads and bridges would have also been halted. Disability payments and veteran payments would have stopped, and much more. All of this would have happened if it wasn't for a judge in Connecticut. Then, in a desperate move to cover up the memo, the White House, the White House press secretary Karen Levitt said during a press briefing, basically they're still going to push for everything on the memo, and they're going to continue to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. But as we all know, they don't consider corruption waste, fraud, and abuse, and uh, they consider your Medicare, your grandmother's Social Security as waste, fraud, and abuse. So, as y'all know, a plane crash has happened in Washington, D.C. a while ago with no survivors. In response to that, Donald Trump said it was due to DEI hires and we need competent workers in there. First of all, that's blatantly racist because DEI means diversity, equity, inclusion. All this means is that employers must hire at least a few African Americans, Asian women. Um, I mean, I didn't mean Asian women. I meant like Asian, and just all the minorities in general to make sure they're not discriminating. Because um, if we didn't have DEI, a lot of the important jobs will just be controlled by white straight men. And of course, they have to be qualified to get the job in the first place. So they're not just going to pick a black person over a white person, even though the white person's qualified and the black person's not. That's not a thing. That's not what's happening. They both have to be just as qualified. Um, so if they're just as qualified but have a different skin tone as a woman that makes them incompetent, hmm, I just think Donald Trump doesn't understand. He's just too stupid. Um, One connection to Trump is 10 days before the crash, Donald Trump forced the Federal Aviation Administration's leader to step down because of the administration's investigations into Elon Musk's SpaceX. This shows that Donald Trump and the billionaire oligarchs running Washington do not care if what they're doing is hurting us, as long as it's making them a profit. Then on the same day, Trump instated a hiring freeze. This is important because we've come to find out that the plane crash happened, happened because the tower was understaffed. Then on January 21st, Trump disbanded the Aviation Security Committee and fired the TSA director. And finally, 1 week later, the first commercial plane crash in 16 years happened, and 9 more since then. Coincidence? I think not. I mean, this basically sums up what's happened till now and for the rest of the Trump presidency. He makes up outlandish problems, tries to fix it with outlandish policies, and in turn creates real problems with his stupid policies. Do y'all remember the tariffs he said he's going to put in place? I sure do. Matter of fact, I talked about that in my last video. You should definitely go check that out. We talked about all the prices and how they're going to go up and how it will be detrimental to low-income families nationwide. Trump has put these tariffs on hold probably because he knows how much of a disaster they're going to be. Now, he said it was because of the deal he made with Mexico and Canada. The deal with Mexico and Canada was for them to secure their borders. The funny thing is Trump asked the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, if she could have 10,000 troops at the northern border. Except she already has 15,000. What's funny is she could send 5,000 people home and still be in compliance with the deal. Hilarious. That's comical. And then Canada offered the same deal they gave Biden for their border and just threw in a fentanyl czar to make it sound official. The funny thing about that is, what is the difference between the fentanyl and the border czar's job? Border czar already covers and is already trying to stop the flow of drugs. It's very stupid. Very stupid. It's like the border czar's main job. One of them.
But reporting from Wired states at least one Musk-aligned official had the ability to change the code of the Treasury's payment system, which also feels important to me. You've called on the Treasury Secretary to come clean about Musk's infiltration, because we all have all these questions. Have you gotten a straight answer or learned anything?
We haven't gotten a straight answer, and I'm convinced this read-only matter, Jen, is just a blatant lie. Later reporting showed that, in effect, the Musk henchmen were going in there to cut off payments they didn't like. And the reality is Musk is about subverting the Constitution. He's already got access to Social Security, financial data, health data, you name it. And I think people need to know that these are the elements of a coup.
There was so much you just said there. And let me just start with the first thing you said, which is that you think they're lying about what they had access to and what kind of access.
We got extensive reporting that showed that this wasn't just a garden variety examination of files or film or something like that. This was an attempt to go after payments they don't like. Anybody who thinks that these are just routine kind of audits, from the get-go, they removed the official who had been at Treasury for what amounts to eons.
Yeah, and very well respected.
Very well respected, and by the way, respected on both sides of the aisle. And they took him out because they wanted somebody who was completely compliant.
That was Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, stating the fact that Elon Musk has hacked into the Treasury of the United States, a data gold mine with a place with all of the U.S.'s information, from your Social Security to your tax information to your bank account information. And in most recent news, he's also done the same thing with the Department of Energy that has the nuclear codes in it. They even fired the people looking over the nuclear codes and tried to rehire them in the scramble, only getting a select few of them back. This has caused several lawsuits against the Trump administration, averaging 2 a day since he took office. These lawsuits keep happening because Elon is hacking into the Treasury information, and this violates Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the Constitution, which states, "No money shall be withdrawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by the law." This means that Congress, and only Congress, through approved legislation, can authorize the withdrawal of funds from the Treasury, effectively stopping any individual or entity outside of the government from accessing money directly. Matter of fact, it's gotten so bad that the hacker Anonymous issued out a warning to us all. Play that clip.
Greetings, citizens of the United States. The effects of Donald Trump's presidency are no longer distant warnings. They are here, unfolding before you. While many remain unaware, blinded by the administration's relentless efforts to suppress the truth, the rest of the world is watching, and it is responding. Long-standing alliances with key nations such as Canada and Mexico are fracturing inch by inch. The cracks are widening, and the global community is reassessing its trust in the United States. The question is no longer if, but when these relationships will collapse entirely. The consequences will be severe. Every imported product you rely on, everyday essentials, food, technology, will see skyrocketing prices, making even basic necessities unattainable for the average American. What you perceive as a simple rise in costs is, in reality, a calculated strategy. The plan? To systematically dismantle the lower class, to push those already struggling into the abyss of poverty where they will face an impossible choice. Perish or submit to servitude under the wealthy elite. Make no mistake, This is economic warfare, and the target is you. The recent ICE raids are not just about immigration enforcement, they are about control. The Trump administration seeks to reignite the flames of racial inequality and segregation-era policies, erasing diversity to craft a nation built on division and fear. These operations are disrupting local economies, forcing businesses to crumble, and ensuring the economic elimination of the working class. What follows is a society engineered to serve the interests of the few at the cost of the many. And as the oligarchy takes shape, another darker ideology is creeping into the mainstream. Fascist ideals, once whispered in the shadows, are now being openly embraced. Symbolism matters. Gestures matter. Elon Musk, a figure of immense influence, recently tested the waters with a gesture recognized worldwide as a Nazi salute. This was not an accident. It was a message, a challenge, a warning. But know this, the people are not silent. Despite the administration's best efforts to muzzle dissent, the voices of resistance grow louder. Trump's reckless overhauls, his purges of experienced government officials, his chaotic restructuring of critical infrastructure, have created vulnerabilities, weaknesses, entry points. This transition period is his greatest liability, but it is also our greatest opportunity. The rushed implementation of new systems, the mass firings of key personnel, and the chaotic dismantling of existing structures have left behind critical gaps. Gaps that Anonymous can and will exploit. Every system that has been hastily restructured without foresight, every official removed without proper transition planning, leaves behind exposed veins within the government's framework. These vulnerabilities are more than just bureaucratic inefficiencies. They are cracks in the foundation that can and will be breached. Anonymous watches. Anonymous waits. The time to act is fast approaching. The administration's arrogance blinds them to the fragility of their own system. Their overconfidence in their ability to silence dissent and erase opposition will be their undoing. We know where to look. We know how to strike. But understand this. Our intervention, no matter how disruptive, will only be a temporary roadblock unless you, the people, rise. This is your warning. This is your chance. The transition period is fleeting, and once they solidify their grip, your options will vanish. If you fail to act now, the cost of resistance will be far greater in the future. To those in power, think carefully. Your decisions now will determine your future. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Trump has most recently stated that he wants to own Gaza. Play the clip.
We'll build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
Spent. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
He said we're just going to take it and think of it like a big real estate development for the future. He later said that the Palestinians would not be able to return. And this is coming from the peace candidate. So his plan is to take Gaza, move the people out unwillingly, and then develop it. First of all, Israel, the one who's fought so hard for this land since biblical times, is not just going to let you have it. Secondly, we've already done stuff like this to people, and they were the Native Americans, and as we all know, that didn't go well. That was horrible. We should never do anything like that again. So all of this shows that, firstly, he's such a bad president that one of his major policies that he campaigned on, he had to take back. That waste, fraud, and abuse memo that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. He just took it back. He really just going to do, I mean, Karen Levy even said this, they're really going to do that and just, they're still going to push for everything on it. He is now making moves to defund and cut spending on the Department of Education. Play that clip.
I want to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states where it belongs and where parents have total control of their children's lives.
Established in 1979, the Department of Education oversees the funding for public schools, administers student loans, and runs programs that help low-income students. This means if Trump dismantles the Department of Education, it'll be detrimental to low-income communities, getting rid of low-income meals for students and possibly making parents pay for their kids to go to school. This shows that Trump does not care about us. He can care less about our struggle, because if he did, he would have called this off a long time ago, back when he was campaigning on this. And in other news, They most recently, passed a bill through the House that would gut SNAP and uh, Medicaid, and I'm sure a lot more. So we're already seeing evidence for a lot of the stuff I've been saying. And then he then stated that he's going to take Gaza. I mean, this proves that his foreign policy is just invoking war. He doesn't even have a humane plan for the Palestinians. He's just going to do the same thing we did with the mistreated natives here. Horrible leadership. A crisis has also happened under this administration, and it goes to show exactly how Trump handles every crisis. He makes up a stupid solution and then in turn creates worse problems. And lastly, but certainly not least, he's letting Elon and his goons hack into our treasury with all of the country's money and all of its information. This just shows that Elon has control of what's happening with the federal government's money, more than more than the president. Even the president can't. The most powerful man in the world can't do what Elon's doing right now. Now, don't panic. I know, even though Elon has essentially bought the presidency, we can still fight back. We can collectively organize, protest, and fight back with our vote. Not with violence, but with our vote. After all, this is America, and no matter how much billionaires take over, the people still have the power. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this content to help push me out into the algorithm. I would really appreciate that. See you in the next one.